Hi, my name's Mark, one of the pastors here at Trillium. Last week we talked about how Jesus wants us to make him priority number one in our lives. More than spouse, more than children, more than family, community, more than our jobs or our hobbies, interests, activities. And that's a tough one, I gotta tell you. That kind of moves me at least out of the comfort zone that I've become accustomed to. I mean, Jesus wants me to place him ahead of my wife. You've heard that saying, happy wife, happy life. Does he want me to live a miserable life by placing him number one? But yet in the end, I think what he's really asking us to do is to join with him in being God's hands in the world to our neighbors. And that becomes the priority number one. Our number one vocation is being God's hands. Not only to the world out there, but even to our family, our spouse, to our neighbors, friends, community. We all need the blessing of God through each other. And if we place God's blessing as priority in our life, it makes a lot of other things work really well for us. But, if we claim that we are God's hands, that sets us on another course that may be ultimately putting ourselves outside of our comfort zone. Because to join with Jesus and being God's hands in the world means to go to the places that Jesus would go to. And that can be very uncomfortable. Going into the hard places of life, like hospitals and prisons, and into really hurting places that need blessing most of all. And that invitation to be God's hands is a powerful one because it also challenges us outside our comfort zone of what we understand and how the universe works. We've been brought up in a very mechanical, materialistic frame. Those of us who have grown up in the West, we have a fairly materialistic frame that we work through, and to allow God's hands to become our hands is to, in some sense, transcend that or go outside the bounds of a materialistic frame. And that can be very unnerving, I got to tell you. I've had those experiences, maybe you have too, that kind of confound us or perplex us. We read the stories in the Gospels of Jesus healing people, or even the miracle stories where Jesus stills storms, and unless we simply sideline them as legend or fairy tale, we're struck with a situation that confounds us and how the universe works. I was thinking about a story I came across, an actress named April Hernandez, who was going through some really hard times in her life. She was only 19 years old when she got pregnant. She'd had a series of really poor relationships with men, and then she found herself pregnant and abandoned. And like a lot of poor minority women, she finds herself at the abortion clinic because she doesn't think she has any way forward other than that. And she goes through with the abortion, and she comes out diminished. She says that she felt like something had died in her when she came out of the abortion clinic. 5 years later, she's in church with her new husband. They've started to go to church together. She's not particularly religious, but she just feels she needs to be there. And yet over several months in the church, some things start to make a bit of sense to her. And one day, the pastor at the front of the church is saying and talking about forgiveness and inviting people to come forward if they want a blessing of forgiveness. And she's kind of caught in a conundrum because part of her wants to go to the front to receive the blessing, and yet that part of her that wants to stay anonymous, hidden away at the back of the church, is very strong too. Yet somehow she finds herself walking to the front of the church, and when she gets to the front, she cries, "Oh, Father, forgive me for what I've done." She keeps crying that over and over again, and finally she moves into a different space. She feels this energy come over her, this heat, this electricity come over her body. She can feel it moving up and down her body. She falls to the ground in a fetal position, sobbing, and she hears this voice say to her, "Daughter, I forgive you. Now I need you to forgive yourself." And she got touched in that moment by the power of God, the Holy Spirit. She heard God's voice. When she stands up, she looks like a wreck, but she's transformed forever. Her life has been fundamentally changed. She experienced the unconditional love of God. She was literally touched by God's hands in a sense, I guess, through no intermediary. But for us who follow Jesus, we believe that power goes with us in touching the world around us, our neighbors, friends, family, strangers, to distant places far away. The powerful thing is that when we allow our hands to become God's hands, not only is the world around us changed, but so are we.